Welcome back to the weekly manga podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about all of your favorite ongoing Japanese manga. This week, it's time for a new wave of manga in Weekly Shonen Jump. Yes, already. Yes, the last wave did start less than 3 months ago. Since they're desperate to replace their ending series, we'll be covering the new Exorcist manga, Yokai Buster Murakami. Also in Jump Plus, we have 2 new series. First, a Prohibition-era war hero and his quest for a drink in Drunk Bullet, and then a series that might remind you of a certain late 70s horror movie in space. That new manga is called Mad. We're going to end it off with a Speedrunner manga and see what our time is to cover that one. All that manga news and more coming right up. Hello again, my name is Bruce. I am the proprietor of the White Gray Black YouTube channel. This week I am joined by the Yokai manga to my Exorcist manga, Gautam.
Hello, hello.
Those are, of course, the most classic and common new manga series we get struck with. Let's start off. Yeah, that's sarcasm. I'm absolutely dead-ass tired of reading Yokai and Exorcist manga. But let's talk really quickly, I think, about Yokai Buster Murakami. Gautam, you read a couple jokes in this, right?
Yeah, honestly, of the list of stuff we have today, I did not read much of this. I totally forgot to do it. So I tried to hurry through it, but I just can't weigh in. But I do like how this kappa looks.
I will say this about it. Comedy is subjective. If you think this is funny, and I saw some people on Twitter that said I thought this was really funny, thought it was a pretty good start. That's fine. This to me, I thought was pretty weak. It was, I don't know how to describe it. It was just kind of all gags, although I thought Super Psychic Policeman Shoujo was a little bit better than this, and I was pretty down on that too. This one just didn't, its paging isn't interesting. It didn't really have, there's like no character things at all. Like there was, a little bit of character growth in Shoujo. In this one, there's almost nothing. The jokes I think are kind of funny. I'm just really reticent to like fully endorse something like this. I will give it, these 2 pages here are really funny. This is a kappa yokai. The kappa are known for some reason for like reaching into your butt and pulling out something. And so the bottom of this page on the right where he says, "I pulled out your anal orbs," and then talks about anal orbs for the next like 2 pages is kind of funny.
That's sick, dude. That is funny.
Yeah. The problem is there's like 4 more mentions of butts in the chapter. It's like not, it doesn't just end here.
It's like a one gag. Like it's like the one gag, the whole chapter kind of thing.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I don't know what this style of comedy is, but I think it's just like a weak point of mine where I kind of like it. Is
deadpan. The main character being deadpan is
deadpan. But I also like when like the main character feels like this meta character who's just like roasting the villain on breaking societal norms. Like he's like roasting the kappa on not wearing pants and just being a nude man in the street.
Yeah.
Despite the setting being a supernatural one. I don't know what that's called, but I don't know. I'm a sucker for it.
It's something about meta, yeah. So they at some point they like run into 2 other scary yokai who are like, "We steal the bodies of girls." And this page on the right is like, "What are you saying? It's scary. I mean, targeting girls every night." And he says, "Okay, he takes over girls' bodies every night, makes them indecent, and bends them to his will, right?" He says, "That's a porn plot." It's like, no, hey, that's just how the folktale goes. Like, you mean the folktale flicks? That's not a genre. So wait, a kappa is sexual content? Like, stop it. We'll need to add an age verification splash. No, we don't have to. It's all ages. Men, women, young and old. Everyone can get spooked. And they keep going, and it's like,
they're calls him a kappa canoodler.
Yeah, it's like he sticks his hands up girls' butts, takes over their bodies, controls them, makes them do illicit things, like Murakami. It's like, and each night he walks around with his most sensitive area exposed. It's like he's a straight up kappa canoodler.
Okay, maybe I should read this. I might end up liking it.
I will admit, on revisiting this, I like it a little bit more. The first time I read it, I think it maybe was like the first thing I read Sunday morning, and it was just sort of like, okay, here we go. It was just not clicking. And it just wasn't, I don't think your sense of humor is fully tuned in at 10:30 a.m. on a Sunday, so or right when you wake up. So I think the jokes are funny. I just don't know if it did anything else for me. And then it's like, oh wow, so Kappas have 3 buttholes. Like, no wonder you're into butts. Yeah, and then they shrink him down and like capture him in a card, and they like give him the phone, and he just like blasts porn at max volume, and it just says butts, butts, butts. So I don't know. It's very like lowbrow humor, so lowbrow, I guess. Yeah. Like
I like it.
A step above slapstick, but I don't know. On revisit, this is striking me a little bit better. I think this. We say this a lot after reading chapter 1. A lot of it relies on chapter 2. If he comes back in chapter 2 and it's funny again, then maybe it'll be okay. I don't know how long this gag can stick around. Like, I don't know if you could do 100 chapters.
Who knows? That seems that's okay. I'll go back to this. And I'll report back next week or something. We'll see. We'll see if this is funny. This is weekly, right?
Yeah, this is weekly. This is in Weekly Shonen Jump. So
okay,
and I've been back to a couple of chapters of.
Oh, this is a Jump official one. Okay,
this is Jump official. Yeah. I've been back a couple of times to Super Psychic Policeman Shoujo, and that one is sort of like okay. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, this isn't quite my fancy, but if people like it, I can see it being okay. We were pretty down on it in chapter 1. I think it's fine.
I still don't think that one's that good, but
it's not. Okay. But it's one of those comedy things where it's like, you know, you could do worse reading a comedy manga than something like this.
You could be that the one where the girl pilots her friend or whatever. What is that one? We hated it. Bruce.
Oh, it was, Ichigoki Under Control. That one.
Ichigoki Under Control.
Yeah, I pretty constantly bring that as a comparison of like the worst manga Jump has like maybe ever published. At least in recent.
It was a terrible chapter 1, truly.
Oh, it's an awful series. Yes.
But this one seems kind of fun.
Yeah, this one is okay. Like I said, we'll have to see. I think that if this guy can bring it for 3 or 4 weeks in a row, and like, okay, that was 3 funny chapters or 3 interesting premises, or the deadpan humor doesn't get old, then, I mean, it can work. Stuff like Mashal is also based, a lot around deadpan humor, and that worked for, 180 chapters or whatever. So
I think the reason Mashal also worked, well, one, it was like a complete shitpost, but Mash as a character had like 1 foot out of reality in kind of a perfect way, where he didn't truly understand what was happening at any given moment. And I love that. It was, I don't know, he's like always a little bit disassociated from the situation. In a weird way.
Yeah, this strikes me as similar, but we'll have to see how it unfolds. So that is Yokai Buster Murakami. That's by the author there is Daiki Ihara. Chapter 1. Let's move along to something that we both really liked.
We're saving the best for second, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's do it. Drunk Bullet was awesome.
This one is going to take, I think, maybe the majority of our time. And I think it's the thing maybe we like the most this week. So, yes, new series. This is on Manga Plus. This is by author Yanagi Takakuchi. This is called Drunk Bullet. This premise alone, if I told you, a guy in Japan is going to draw a manga about a war hero from World War I and his quest to get an alcoholic drink during Prohibition, and it's really good, I would say, like, okay, I'm listening.
Even if you don't like this, it's a unique premise. It's set in Prohibition America with an all-American cast. Kind of interesting. What a risk. I thought it was awesome. I liked awesome.
This a lot,
you felt the same way, right, Bruce?
This is great. I mean, this is great. This is easily one of the best new things in Jump Plus. And we've gotten a lot of good new things in Jump Plus, but this one to me felt, I don't want to say flawless, but it felt sort of like, I don't know how they could have done better than they did. And it kind of had everything. It was a little funny. It had cool action in it. It was serious. It was goofy. It was, historically accurate, but also not historically accurate. I don't know. It was great. It had great art. It's kind of a little bit of everything.
It was just like a very, very good first chapter for sure. And on top of all of that, I think they somehow they made a very cool protagonist where I could like look at this character and be like, wow, that guy's badass. I don't think I feel that way about most protagonists in manga, especially in the first chapter. They usually have to work for that, but this guy is like rule of cool incarnate.
He's like a war hero. He got injured in the war as part of why he got sent home. So he's like missing an eye. I like that he wears glasses. He like visually is presented as kind of like his his jacket is off and around his shoulders in a kind of cool way.
And the not so crippling alcoholism that motivates his character.
That's the one thing. But yeah, I mean, this is great. So he like literally is just on a quest for search. Like this guy tries to tell him, he's like, I'm going to get a drink. And he's like, oh, you haven't seen the papers? I wasn't going to say anything, but it's such a shame. But like, oh, he's gone. So he gets to a bar, sees that it's like, hey, we got shut down for Prohibition. I guess if any of the listeners are from Europe or are not aware of Prohibition was a year of, 13 years from 1920 to 1933, where the United States essentially banned alcohol. You could not, I think you couldn't sell alcohol. Maybe you could still like make moonshine and drink it, and that wasn't illegal. I think it was the sale of alcohol was illegal. But
yeah, it was the manufacture and sale of alcohol. So if you can't even manufacture. So if you already had alcohol, they do in this,
or paint remover,
yeah, exactly. But if you had like a bottle of whiskey, you can give it away, but you can't sell it. And you can't make whiskey anymore during Prohibition.
Yeah,
but
so an interesting time in America's history. But yeah, he goes to the bar, sees that Prohibition happened. It goes into this. I bet we see more of these. There were like interesting things during this time. Like I mentioned moonshine, like people would make their own, from literally just like letting potatoes rot and making potato whiskey moonshine out of it. So I bet we see more of these kind of like, oh, what are the ways that people got to drink, during Prohibition? This guy is drinking literally isopropyl alcohol paint remover. And it gives a little disclaimer of like, do not attempt at home. This will kill you.
Yeah. Will lead to certain death.
Yeah. But he eventually runs into, in this chapter, Paul and Delphine, who run a restaurant. But our main character's nose is so tuned to the smell of alcohol that he can smell the whiskey. Like he's like, I know you have whiskey here. He's like, yeah, that rich aroma of well-aged whiskey was soaked into oak wood. Like it's somewhere in the storeroom, without a doubt. You've got whiskey. And we meet our bad guy, who this guy reminds me of. Is there like a Bleach bad guy or somebody I've seen that looks
the Jujutsu Kaisen guy?
It's Geto, I think, is who this
Geto, yeah.
That's who this guy looks like. It's like
I'm
1920s
shocked
Geto.
You remember that. I'm shocked that you knew that.
I have a friend who's really into Jujutsu Kaisen yaoi. So
okay.
That's actually why I'm more like, she'll send me stuff. But anyways.
The biggest twist of the day, yeah.
Yeah, this guy's name is Cheech, which is a good name. A nice 1920s sounding name, if we're being honest. Like, if you told me that guy's name was Cheech from 1920s America, I'd be like, yeah, I can see that.
And, like, during the Prohibition era, there was a lot of organized crime because alcohol was outlawed. So, like, having a mafioso mobster guy is kind of a perfect villain.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it at the very end, but if they go to where they say they are going, that was sort of the center of organized crime in America at the time. So yeah. Also, mentioning how cool the main character is, his like how casual he is and just basically wearing like a button-up long sleeve shirt and pants, and it's just like he doesn't. Right? We aren't. This isn't some hyper designed shonen protagonist wearing some cool thing. He's like literally just a dude, like glasses, headband, necklace, like long sleeve shirt and pants.
Hey, good to see adults out here, huh?
Yeah, like literally, yeah. I think that's maybe what's refreshing. It's like, yeah, he's just like an adult dressed like a dude would dress, like normally, and not even in the 20s or 100 years later.
I think we're just praising that this is not a high school boy.
I mean, to be honest, that is also a big attractor here for this. But it's some stuff happens. Cheech threatens them, whatever. The sister takes the gun. They're all like, oh no, we have to go save her. And again, we get kind of the badass, like, okay, he's put on his cape, right? His jacket, kind
uniform.
His uniform over there. He's cocking his gun, which is a very well rendered 1920s. Or this is like the 1918 something. Who knows?
Who knows?
But yeah.
Gun. And then we have the classic shootout, and you see that he was a really good soldier. He was called Tempest Gary. Because he stormed like 11 trenches and took them solo.
We see kind of at the very beginning that he's like pissed off that he can't drink alcohol. He's in, assume, France in the trenches in World War I, and so he's like fuck this, I'll storm them. Maybe they have alcohol. But yeah, so very cool. A nice sort of storytelling thing to just be like, oh, they gave him a special medal and he has a nickname, Tempest Gary, which I think is going to probably stick with him through all this. Some really good like paneling, layout, really good art, like I mentioned here. Seizing 10 trenches single-handedly in recognition of his maelstrom valor, which is a cool way to put that.
That is sick, yeah. That is a dope line.
Yeah. It's also shown they do the thing that's kind of, again, there's lots of good kind of subtle humor in here. I don't know if you have a page for it, but they mentioned at the end that he like took down all these guys with his gun, but he didn't kill anyone. He just like non-lethally harmed all of them. Which I think is kind of funny if it's like, okay, he still is kind of a good guy, like a past. He's not just going around murdering everybody.
He's just he's sick of killing. After the war,
he just wants
to trying to avoid it. Yeah. I actually didn't understand this page that we're seeing right now, where the gangster Cheech, right before he's about to get executed by Gary, and he doesn't, but right before that he says, "What happened to you?" Is this like he's seeing like a monster or a broken man or something like that, and he's like, "What made you this way?"
And I wonder, I think this is asking, because a lot of the, I'd assume a lot of the people who didn't, because World War I was, I don't think they did a draft for World War I. If they did, it was a lot smaller than World War II in Vietnam and stuff like that, obviously. So that it wasn't like all the men left America during this time. There was still a good chunk of them left. So it was more uncommon for people to know, like, you went to war, what was that like? Whereas in World War II, it was like, everybody who was a male over the age of 18 fucking went to war, and they all knew what it was like. And so it was like a dude came back and looked like this, you'd be like, I understand, you went to war, shit's fucked up. This guy, I think, is like not been to war. He's been in America and New York being a mobster, so he doesn't understand why this guy is so fucked up because he went to World War I. So I wonder if they explore that more, or if it's just kind of a lighthearted joke thing or what. But but he finally gets his drink in the end. We get a nice kind of pastel watercolor painting behind.
You get a Shokugeki no Soma alcoholgasm, where he envisions he's in the Alps. I love it. Yeah, I'm a sucker for these moments too, where someone has like a really good yummy food or a good drink, and they get teleported to like a nice locale in their own brain.
We also get a name drop that tells us that Beam and Hart made this whiskey, which is essentially becomes Jim Beam. Like, I guess after Prohibition ends, Beam and Hart, Beam and Hart becomes Jim Beam after that. So
so it's like that's what they were called before Jim Beam.
Yeah, I think there was either a subnote or I Googled it or something, but yeah, Beam and Hart is I think Beam and Hart was just like the original startup with two guys, and then after Prohibition or something, like the Beam guy, Jim Beam, I assume his name was James Beam, maybe, bought it out, and it was Jim Beam from then on.
Got it.
But yeah, they introduce each other. They kind of get up. We get a paper to see that they're both now wanted. Garrett Hopper and Paul Filate.
$500 reward, bounty put on their heads, which is $8,000 each in today's world.
Not that much if you think it's a dangerous person, but
but I guess they didn't do really anything that wrong. It's true. More like, but so Paul at this moment says, "Hey, let's go on the run." A wise man says, "A leaf hides in the forest," and Paul is very okay with going on the run, surprisingly so, but I digress.
Paul's kind of an anything for my family type of guy.
Type of dude.
Yeah, and he suggests going to, and this is what I alluded to earlier, going to Chicago, which Chicago in America was historically known as like, I don't know if it was necessarily the hub for like alcohol distribution, but it was the place where the organized crime was. Like that's, like there was a lot in New York at the time, and I think more, or maybe just more focused. I don't know. I'm not a historian on organized crime in the early 20th century, but I know that there was a lot going on in Chicago at that time. So they're literally, and I think that that's probably where this story will take majority of place, will be in Chicago in the 1920s, because that's mobster, that's gangster, that's zoot suits, that's all that jazz. So
yeah, you know what? History buffs, read this chapter and get at us in the comments.
Yeah, somebody give us a little history lesson. Because I know the general stuff, but yeah, I mean, this is, again, it's just, dynamic artwork on this last page on the left here. Fun story, great protagonist, interesting premise, cool location and era. Like the only other story I've ever seen that takes place maybe in this era is like
Golden
Baccano?
Kamui. Oh, Baccano, yeah.
Baccano is kind of in this era and in America. Golden Kamui takes place in the 1907, so it's a little earlier than this.
Oh, okay.
So
God, I haven't read it.
it's also
yeah,
more about
sense.
Japan and Russia at the time, which I don't really think about. But yeah, I mean, this is Drunk Bullet. I think this is really good. This is like
that was great. That was a great one.
This every week.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I thought this was like such a strong first chapter. I'm excited to read more of it. It was also just really fun.
Yeah, it's just like it's hard to quantify and describe when something hits that perfect balance of like it's actiony, it's serious, it's fun, it's adult because the people aren't children in a high school, which is just a refreshing thing.
And I learned something, and I had a good time learning. That's also a good part.
Yeah, and this seems like I'm a big proponent of write what as in if this guy I really like American Prohibition era history. It's like, okay, write that into your manga. Like use that as the setting for your manga. And that seems to be like what this guy did. Or maybe honestly, he might just be a big like whiskey fan. Like this might just be whiskey drinking because there's lots of whiskey distilleries in the US. So
maybe but you see a bunch of different alcohols back there. So I'm curious if like the next chapter we get like gin or something else,
Yeah. Well, because I mean,
we get different types.
Yeah, I mean, the alcohol in America at this time is going to be, whiskey, gin, spirits, and hard alcohol, and beers. So, I didn't make any wine, if much at all here. There was probably a little bit, but wine was not really. It was imported from France, but maybe that happens. Who knows? I'll be interested. I'll be interested to see if it'll be like, every week or every arc is like a different alcohol to kind of cap it off, or what does he feel like drinking this week? That's what he goes on a quest for and gets him in trouble.
I'd like to see that too. It seems like fighting gangsters and drinking booze. The manga.
Yeah, having a fun time doing it. So
yeah.
So I really like that one. We both did. That's a high suggestion. That's Drunk Bullet by Yanagi Takakuchi. That is on Manga Plus.
It was very good. If you're going to read anything of this stuff we talk about this week, read Drunk Bullet.
That would be definitely my top suggestion. Next one, another Manga Plus series. This series is called Mad. This is by author Yusuke Otori. This is also chapter 1. I like this one a little bit more than you did, but it was much more uneven. This is a story. I thought
it was quite bad.
I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was, I don't know. This is just like kind of the opening pages. And then this is not an alien, but also I'm pretty sure this top page is a trace picture. A
legally distinct alien.
Yeah, legally distinct alien invasion happens. Virtually everyone dies. There's a lot of pages in this. First of all, there's like 125, I think, actual pages of manga in this. It's a lot of visual storytelling, which I liked. I think that's probably one of the reasons that I like this a little bit more than you, is that it did say a lot of stuff, but I felt like it told a lot through just sort of panels and visual storytelling, and I like that about it. The main character is kind of a nothing burger. Everyone else dies in this chapter 1. In case you didn't, spoilers for the chapter, of course. His sister isn't real, but she talks in his head. That's kind of a classic trope. It was very tropey, I would say, for this kind of post-apocalyptic. As you could
see from our legally distinct alien at the beginning.
Yeah, it's definitely just kind of taking. It isn't. How do I say it? It's wearing its influences on its sleeve, and it has large sleeves, and you can see the influences very. Like, this guy is a Fujimoto fan. I think his art looks very, very similar. He could even be an ex-Fujimoto assistant.
The women are more so Fujimoto designs than even the men.
Yeah, for sure. But even just the art style in general, the kind of messy, sketchy art style looks very Fujimoto. Parts like this, right, where they're walking in, they hit a minefield. I will say something. This camera angle in this panel where this guy blows up, this has happened in Chainsaw Man like 4 or 5 times. Like, this is like a Fujimoto angle almost. Like I get
it's a good angle.
It is a good angle. It's cool. It's very dynamic, but this sort of like ground looking up at like a big explosion or something. Like I could go and look through my Chainsaw Man picture folder from my video and like probably find 2 or 3 that's like, this is a thing. And he does it like twice in a row. Like, here's like the same low angle showing the legally distinct alien. And they just called them the aliens. We learned here that it's like because no one, again, I called this twist about 20 pages in where it's like, no one else is talking to the sister. He's the only one talking to the sister. She's not real.
To be honest, Bruce, everyone did. It's
predictable,
it's just
tropey, like I said.
obvious.
Yeah.
But it was played in such a way in the chapter that it was meant to be like a surprising revelation, because it's given a few more pages than just this.
This is like page 80 or 90 of the chapter.
Yeah.
I figured it out on page 20, so yeah.
It's like where we're given like a mini flashback. Like, we're given a lot to show that this is a twist when it wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, it's like just obvious that the sister was dead the whole time.
Yeah, again, this is, I guess I would say
that's fine, though.
It just lacks an execution. I get the sort of like, okay, aliens invade, it's tropey, it's kind of dystopian, guy is sad, sister haunts him. That's like, nothing is inherently wrong with all of those, but when your execution of those is also sort of standard fare for those things, it doesn't bring a whole lot new into what it's doing. So
that's fine. You know what? Well, we'll get... let's go through the synopsis, and we'll get to Gautam's complaint corner.
Yeah. So, I mean, despite being so long, essentially what happens is this guy joins a group of people, they run into a minefield, the aliens attack, and then he is eventually, he kind of has been saying, I want to kill myself. There's a pretty interesting panel here where they're sort of at a cliff's edge, and he's like about to take a step off, and then his sister's ghost, whatever you're going to call it, stops him. I like this kind of stuff. I think is really this page on the left, I think is a really like that's like a good page of manga. I like stuff like this. He's looking over the edge, solid. Empty stare, zoom in on the eyes, starts to take a step. Like, I think that's really good visual storytelling. So I think that's why I'm a little higher up on this than you are. But yeah, blows up. Aliens show up. He runs away. There's like also like 4 flashbacks in this. There's like one flashback earlier. I think another person tells her flashback story. His flashback is with his sister, and it's very long. It's a very long chapter. And she's like, no, I don't want to die. Very straightforward. If you're dead, you can't remember anything. It's like, I never want to forget those beautiful memories. She gives him the thing. And he gets saved by these, by soldiers who came. He's like, yeah, I'm alive. And that's
living for his sister. Yeah.
Yeah. Living for his sister, but also kind of wanting to die, but not wanting to die for his sister, haunted. It's a lot of post-apocalyptic kind of tropes thrown together, executed in the way that you have almost absolutely seen them done before. I do like the art and the visual storytelling and the paneling and stuff. I think is pretty decent. I sort of like enjoyed reading through the chapter, but on the underside of it, it is kind of non-impactful. I don't want to say boring necessarily, but it's kind of like nothing changed when I finished this. It was sort of like, yes, those are post-apocalyptic tropes. There they all are in one manga.
Yeah, so I really didn't like this. I thought it was kind of bad. Basically, like, our legally distinct aliens look just like the xenomorphs from Alien.
Almost
and Aliens.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I feel like you foster comparisons when you use a design like this, because it is just Ridley Scott's Alien design.
Or H.R. Geiger, I think, designed it.
H.R. Geiger's design in a Ridley Scott movie.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, like, in those movies, the appeal is that you're in cramped corridors and tight spaces to make these xenomorphs look and seem really scary. In this chapter, they're all in the desert, in wide open areas. So when they get snuck up on by these xenomorph creatures, I'm like, how did you not see that, like, hundreds of feet away? It's like, I can't buy the premise that these looming threats are just, like, sneaking up on these people when they are in the desert. Why pick the desert? It's like, it's wide open. And the military showing up to save the dude at the end, also in a desert. It's like, this is a wide open plain. Where did you fucking come from, assholes?
I wondered, when you were DMing me about this, you were like, why is it in a desert? And I was like, I don't know. Like, it's like really easy to draw.
Location.
Like, it's really easy to draw a desert. Like, if you're not a very good background artist, which I'm pretty sure it's like, you don't have to draw trees or detailed stuff. It's like, it's just whatever. But yeah.
But like, you can see how far they can see. It's like the premise that these things are just like ambushing them makes no sense. I think they just like the alien design of the xenomorph, so they used it. But I don't know.
Well, and the other thing about we don't have to do a podcast about the alien xenomorph and why it's so great. But the other thing that's great, in addition to many things that's great about the xenomorph, is that you're right about it being inside that cramped spaceship, and that's part of what makes it scary. But the other thing is that it looks like the inside of a spaceship. It is like black and slick, and it looks like it has cables and cords coming out of it. And so it blends in. Like, I mean, it's a fucking, how old is that movie now? Like almost 50 years old? Almost 60, right? 20, yeah, it's like 55 years old now.
But that's like a lot of thought went into that design and how it interacts with its setting.
Yeah.
And it's like zero thought went into this design and how it interacts with its setting.
Well, yeah, and what I was going to say is like the best scene in Alien, my favorite scene in Alien, is at the very end where you think Ripley has killed the alien, and then it like is just in the dash, like the wall, and it just like comes out of the wall, and you're like, I didn't even see it. And it's like, that's what's scary about it, is it like looks like the inside of a ship. Part of why it's also scary for like, there's a lot of sexual horror in that I will not talk about, but that's another reason why it's scary. But yeah, this is just sort of like, I like the way aliens look, and I put them in my manga, and I like my main character being, suicidal, but being told to live. I'll put that. Also, like, he's missing an arm. I'm sure we get history of that, but like, why is he missing an arm? We don't really get, do we even get that in the flashback? I don't even remember. So
we don't, but we'll get like why the sister died and like why he's missing an arm later. Yeah. I'm fine with that. It's just like the rest of it falls apart. They don't mention how the xenomorphs kill everyone on Earth.
It's also, the other thing is like where you go? The fact that the military shows up and just shoots and kills the xenomorph, and it's like, none of the military dies. It's like, you realize like, maybe this is just because we're American. Speaking of, we've talked about war more times than in any other episode before this, but if these aliens crash into America and this small outpost of dudes with guns is able to hold them off, like the American military would annihilate them. Like we would be fine. Like it would be fine. Like if you're showing me that 4 guys with guns
just get gunned down.
Yeah. If you're telling me that 4 guys with guns can gun down, one of these aliens, like there would have to be 1 billion of them. Cause even then, I think the American military might still win. Like, so.
Well, why is there only one? Like in Aliens, there were a horde, which is why people with guns still lost, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Also, this is more of a nitpick based on my other criticisms. It's like, why are these guys fully decked out in gear in the desert? It's like they're going to get heat stroke. They're gonna fucking. This is like not desert attire. Well, it's like I think like it's a compilation of not thinking about these small things.
Yeah.
And it's like a bunch of these small moments that I feel weren't given thought that add up to like a legitimate, if you don't care, why should I kind of a thing.
Yeah, well, and so this author I think is has done 2 one-shots previously. I think this is their first serialized work, and I would say that it feels like a first work in the way that they're making kind of those mistakes of, does everything in my world make sense together? Why this character? The other thing is that I literally one change I think that would make the whole chapter just a little bit better is if these if the military guys, the guys with the guns, show up, and like if one of them gets attacked and cut down by the alien, you would be like, okay, I understand they're wearing armor to protect against the alien's attacks. Cool. And also it would show like, oh, the alien, even guys with guns can go down. The alien is fast and he can still kill them, but he doesn't, right? They show up, they shoot it, it's scared off or dead, and they move on. Like it doesn't like show me, it shows me how threatening it is to non-combatants, but it looks like, oh, if there's guys with guns, the aliens are not an issue. So that's kind of what I got out of chapter 1, which I think is kind of the wrong choice in addition to a lot of the other stuff. So
yeah, I think we're thinking about it more than the author is thinking about it, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I'll keep my eye on this one and pay attention to it. I'll just see, if it gets better, if it picks up, does anything interesting. But yeah,
we'll keep an eye on. I don't know how much more I'll read. I don't think it's got me, but
we'll see how many pages chapter 2 is, because Jump Plus has been doing a chapter 1 that's incredibly long, and then a chapter 2 that's also really long. So I don't know if another 100 pages of this is what I need. I feel like I need to see if they can, spit out a tight 22, a tight 25, like most shonen manga. But we'll see.
I think we lose the visual storytelling, like the one part we did like, right?
I think so too. Yeah. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see if you can use the visual storytelling moments to greater. Yeah. I mean, I think these 2 pages are great. I mean, like looking at his sister reaching for her, hand goes through her. Like, this is great visual storytelling, right? To show us that she's not real. And he doesn't tell us like, oh yeah, my sister died, she's not real anymore. It shows it to us. So
Yeah,
I appreciate that. So this author, I think you're right about most of the missteps here. I also think that this author is like miles ahead of a lot of other new authors as far as just visual storytelling and telling a story in panels in a visual medium. So I have a little bit more hope and expectation that maybe they're not the best right now, but maybe if they develop their other talents, this person could come back and be really good. So
this doesn't fully reflect their skill set, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't make like a full-on judgment that they're a good or bad author, but I do think this is a bad chapter 1 regardless.
Yeah, and it's possible that chapter 2 gets better, so who knows.
Yeah.
Cool. That's it. That's Mad by Yusuke Otori.
Do we know why it's called Mad?
I assume that it's because the world went mad. I don't know. That's a very that's
a good theory. Okay, yeah, I'm buying it.
The fact that this is just kind of borrowing all of these tropes and using them kind of straight up, I assume that mad is just going to be the world went mad or the main character gets mad and fights back. Like those are the two biggest. It's like that's just what happens. Like Mad Max.
You know what?
You know why he's called Mad Max? He's a little crazy.
You know what? You have my buy-in. I'm down. I'm down with that theory. Yeah. Let's move on.
Cool. Last thing on the list for discussion today. This is Speedrunner Cannot Return from the Game World. This is by Koide Yoshito. This has about 13 chapters out. Gautam, you just grabbed a bunch of random pictures and wanted to talk about it, right? From different chapters?
Yeah, exactly. So this is an isekai that I'm reading, and I think it's really fun. Mm-hmm. It's stupid as hell, but it's very fun. I think I brought this before at some point.
You brought this up maybe when chapter like 2 or 3 dropped, maybe earlier in the year. Yeah, because I read I think like 8 chapters of this. It's good. It's funny. It's monthly, I think.
Yeah,
yeah.
It is a huge shitpost, just like it seems. Where in the first chapter, like he's a hero summoned, the classic isekai premise of hero summoned to defeat the Demon King. But the world that he gets summoned in is like a game he speedruns.
Yeah.
So
and it works by the game logic, not in the same way that a like classic game isekai would, where it's like I have skills, but he's just like, oh, I can like jump on this rock 20 times, and that means I clip through the wall and get a super jump, and he just like does that, and everyone's like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, and this is like the first page, so it kind of shows that he's fully nude and has a stick in his hand and is phasing through a wall because he doesn't want to fight this mid boss.
Yeah,
he's just optimizing.
And I don't know, I like watching speedruns. I definitely watch games done quick and what is it? Summer games done quick and super games done quick, awesome games done quick. Twice a year, there's a big speedrunning competition, which I actually think is coming up in a week or two here. The next one.
And for people who don't play games, speedrunning is just doing a game as fast as possible.
The game as fast as you can. Yep.
Using glitches and exploits and whatnot.
Yeah.
So exactly. He bugged through the wall. And I just have a few random pages here where it just breaks the trope in really fun ways where he gets summoned and instantly starts sprinting within the first second.
Just like, oh, I don't need the sword. Yeah.
Yeah. And
this was in the chapters I read, yeah.
Yeah. He has like optimization techniques, but his friends are like, please be normal.
Yeah.
He's like, why can't you just be normal? You can't cartwheel.
Yeah.
And this is like he has to save the world. Once he realizes it's not like a game that he's in and he's actually isekai, he has to actually figure out how to get back and do shit like normal. So this is him fighting the first boss. And it's like really funny because they did like a bunch of backstory and setup to like how this person is so cruel and like ruin people's lives and how seriously everyone else is taking this. And it's like her first introduction is intimidating and scary face. Mm-hmm. And his tactic was like she's invincible to like physical and magical attacks. So he uses an exploit where he uses an attack that's not considered an attack in the game, which is just throwing money.
Oh.
So like he breaks the set encounter by just getting a bunch of gold and just chucking it at her face until she dies.
Yeah, he does a item like duplication glitch to get like 999 of this thing, which he then sells and has like 990,000 sen or whatever they call it. So.
Yeah.
Oh, it is the money throwing. Yeah.
I love this. It's like a kind of a One Punch Man writing how one does it, where he establishes like the villain as monstrous and the effects they have on the world, and then just puts your shithead character in there, defeating them in a humiliating and borderline anticlimactic way.
Yeah,
it's like a good subversion.
Yeah.
So he just like starts chucking it at her, and like skips the phases and just kills her with gold throwing. And this is the last page I grabbed. It's like a denizen of the world who is taking all of this very seriously, just watching the absurdity of it all.
Yeah.
Because like the monster he's fighting is like a serious threat that no one could get past, and this weirdo is just throwing gold at her till she dies.
And I will say this, it sounds like, oh, haha, this is all fun and games, but there's some like legitimately good writing in like some of the backstories for the characters here. Like the female knight was like a friend of the princess who they were kind of like torturing to be able to summon, a hero at a time. She has an interesting flashback. There's like an old woman who has kind of a well-written flashback where her town was attacked and she's kind of scarred from that.
That's some perfect.
Yeah.
Even if you have a shitpost fight, you make the joke that much funnier by setting it up seriously.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that the serious writing parts of this are like, pulling their own weight. It is a full shitpost series, but like it isn't all fluff, I guess. It has some bones underneath it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like how One Punch Man does it. You establish the villain, the motivations, and people struggling against the villain with their own complexes and motivations, and then have Saitama show up and with his bald ass head and his stupid outfit punch him to death, right?
Exactly. Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So yeah, no, that's just my recommendation. It's just a funny one.
Yeah, I had fun catching up on a little bit of this. I need to catch up all the way. So that's that Speedrunner Cannot Return from the Game World by Koide Yoshito. Sorry. Cool. A couple of pieces of news here. Not a whole lot this week. There was a new Death Note trademark titled Death Note Killer Within registered. I'm going to guess pachinko machine, but I don't know. That's
I feel like that's like a bad brand for a pachinko machine. It's like gambling kills.
Yeah.
That's how that could be.
I guess the question here is, do we think they're doing another anime adaptation? I think probably not. Or do we think that
it doesn't need one, right?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think the Death Note anime still really holds up. I would definitely suggest it to like people who are new to anime still.
Yeah.
Do we think that there's going to be another? Because he wrote a bonus chapter like 4 or 5 years ago with like Trump and stuff in it. Do you remember that?
That was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny.
It actually kind of pissed me off, but it was a good chapter.
Yeah, so I wonder if maybe he's just come back for another bonus chapter or something. Maybe that's all this is.
Well, I think the intent of the bonus chapter was to say Death Note can't work in the modern era because of how surveyed humanity is as a whole.
Yeah.
True. Like they'd catch Light doing his public shenanigans on a camera somewhere.
Yeah. Cool.
Which is like the crux of that one shot. You should go read it if you like Death Note.
Yeah, for sure. And Death Note is still a very good series. So we got news in I think today or yesterday's Boys Abyss chapter release. Boys Abyss is ending in 5 chapters. We're definitely gonna talk about that when it ends. Oh,
bro,
man.
How?
Dude, and every time I've brought Boys Abyss in the past, I've talked about it. I love this series. It is the most melodramatic bullshit. It is so fun and funny while taking itself so seriously. But also,
does it feel like it's concluding though?
I think so. It's hard to tell because it's like, well, a big thing, like a big murder just happened, and it's like, yeah, but it's not the first murder to happen in the series or the first attempted murder. So it's like, it could have ended those other times. Here's another one. But I guess
this time it's a murder suicide.
I do think that 5 chapters is about the amount of time that I think it's going to wind down. I think I would not be surprised if like literally every main character is dead by the end of it. I don't know.
Wouldn't that be like kind of a sucky ending because they wanted to commit suicide in the first place, like in the first chapter?
Yeah, but if you read it and you get it, I'll say it like this: in every single chapter of the comments, if someone like manages to like escape the plot of Boys Abyss, like, oh, they aren't relevant to the plot anymore, everyone was like, oh, thank God, they're safe. Like they aren't, because if you're involved in the plot of Boys Abyss, you are like tortured, suicidal, miserable. Everything is wrong. Your parents hate you. Your upbringing was miserable. But then if you escape it, if you get away, like run away to another town or whatever, it's like, oh, everyone's like, oh, thank God, they're fine.
It's just a fucked up moral, if you know what I mean. It's like they wanted to commit suicide because their town was fucked up.
Well, but they didn't.
Then they're tortured, and then they die. It's like the moral would have been you should have committed suicide faster.
No, there's more to it than that because they don't. The majority of characters in Boys Abyss are not. I don't want to say like they're not actually suicidal. They kind of are, but it's from like a misread kind of childish point of view for some of the characters. For other characters, they've kind of gotten older, and I don't know. I legitimately think this is an incredibly well written series. I think the artistic expression in it, the paneling, a lot of the reveals and stuff are super very good. It's weird that it's tacked onto this like literally melodramatic. Like everyone is a hot mess in this.
I think that makes sense.
It's
right?
wild though. Like I think this is a fun ride. This is the kind of thing that I enjoy reading because it is fun to be like how miserable. I think 2 or 3 years ago, maybe about a year and a half ago when I first brought it, it was like, oh yeah, the high school teacher who has a crush on her student hit the student's mom with her car, and the mom didn't die. It's like that kind of melodramatic bullshit is what happens in this story. And it's like told in a really effective way. I don't know. I really like Boys Abyss. I'll be sad to see it go.
Yeah. Well, you have to report back when it ends.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely bring it when that last chapter publishes for sure.
Yeah.
The Elden Ring, what is it? Path to the Erdtree? Road to the Erdtree?
It's like Road to the Erdtree. Yeah.
Is going on hiatus because the DLC is releasing tomorrow.
As of recording, the mangaka has to do his research, you know?
Which I think is funny and great. And yeah, so we're both excited for that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Last piece of news here. Hiroyuki Nakano has officially left his position as editor-in-chief at Weekly Shonen Jump after 7 years. Yu Saito, who is the editor of Kuroko no Basket and Nisekoi, will become the head of the magazine starting June 2024. So, essentially, Weekly Shonen Jump has a new editor-in-chief. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. What do I hope it means? I hope there are less Bleach clones.
Yeah.
I hope that there are less. We have gotten, I'm not even kidding, every single, in the last, I've been reading like the new stuff in Jump and really paying attention, reading everything in Jump for about 3, maybe 3.5 years now. And I don't think we've gone a single like set, like about twice a year generally they have like a set of 3 to 4 new series that premiere. I don't think we've gone through a premiere series without at least one Yokai or Exorcist manga. Every single one of them has had one of those. And we're so tired of it. So I don't know if this guy is going to necessarily bring huge sweeping changes. If he'll act stuff faster, if he's more interested, in sports, since he did Kuroko no Basket, maybe, more interested in getting something sports running, more forgivable. Will he act things harder, softer? Who knows? I hope that this brings a change. I hope that they stop chasing the Demon Slayer and the Jujutsu Kaisen high and realize that their newer hits are different things. Their newer hits are Akane Banashi, Ruri Dragon, Sakamoto Days.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
Well, that's because that's our opinion on what the hits should be. The Jujutsu Kaisens of the world and the Demon Slayers of the world are still top sellers. So I think they'll forever chase those highs.
Yeah, I don't know. But give me something new. Like at the very least, don't set it in Japan. Like that's like if you gave me like Yokai Buster New York City, like I'm already 10 times more interested that you've set it somewhere different, like London, Paris, I don't know, like Sao Paulo. Like give me some other location. I'm so tired of reading about small town Japan, Yokai Busters, or Tokyo exorcism things. Like that's just, I'm so tired of it. That's
Demon Slayer, Sao Paulo. Coming up next.
Honestly, that sounds sick.
That sounds sick.
That sounds cool. Like, yeah. Like just saying that out loud is like, yeah, that sounds way cooler. So, new editor in chief. We'll see how things change. We'll have to kind of pay attention the next 6 months to a year. See if anything is different or if it's just kind of same old dance. So,
I'd love to see. Where's Christ the Redeemer? Is that was in Brazil?
That's
right?
in Sao Paulo. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'd love like a fight. I don't know. Yeah, it's Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
I'd love a fight on top of like Christ the Redeemer.
That's a great set piece. That like, look, Tokyo Tower in the background. No, Jesus Christ in his 70-foot stature, or however. I don't know. It's taller than that, but I don't know. It's just one of those like, yeah. I'm so tired of these manga. And we went over one of them today. Like, it was a gag manga, but it was still yokai exorcism in Japan. I'm so tired of it.
I find that we have less and less patience week after week for things that are samey.
Yeah.
It's well, like yeah.
Well, because it's like, the last time we did new releases, there was Kyokito Necromance. And the time before that, there was whatever. And the time before that, there was Dororon. And the time before that, there was Tokyo.
Exactly.
Whatever.
I think we're just losing our minds a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, it's like there's like 4 to 6 of these in Weekly Shonen Jump a year. And they have all failed for the last 3 years. Like, the only one that's still, I mean, none of them are still around, really. I guess New Age Exorcist is kind of surviving. I still think that series is garbage, but people say it gets better.
I think all of these manga are just like playing a lottery, right? And hoping they pull like the winning ticket like Demon Slayer or JJK did. Yeah. But it's like a game of numbers for Shonen Jump, right? They know like this formula is effective. They just need to keep putting shit in and canceling shit until they hit another JJK type beat.
You essentially have to have something sell like great, like equal to or greater than 15,000 volume 1 copies, and then your sales have to go up from volume for 2 or 3 volumes, and then you're maybe kind of set after that. That's what things like Sakamoto did that, Mashal did that, stuff like that. So, yeah.
Well, I hope one of these days, because inevitably we'll get more yokai busting manga, I hope one of these days there is a yokai buster manga where we initially dismiss it, but end up being like, "Whoa, that was actually really fucking good, dude."
I hope so.
Around.
Hasn't happened yet.
Hakusho type.
Hasn't happened yet, but we'll see.
I know. We'll see.
All right, cool. That's it for the news, Gautam. Let's do one more thing. What are you doing today?
Ultra Lord. I'm gonna play the Elden Ring DLC tomorrow. It's gonna be fucking sick.
It's gonna be awesome. Yep.
I've been playing through for the 3rd time, and goddamn, it's just an excellent.
It's so good. I'm on my second like big main playthrough. It's crazy. The first time it took me like I think 97 hours to beat it, and now it's like I'm 45 hours and I'm like almost pretty close. I could do it. I could do it in probably 50 or 60 the second time. So yeah, very cool.
Well, it's one of those games where muscle memory and knowledge just makes everything faster. Yeah. But it's I'm the same, but it's like half the time
for sure.
But
it's gonna be sick.
I normally don't replay games that much, but this is Elden Ring is special.
Yeah, it's an incredible game. Playing it again is just like, yep, this game is awesome. It rocks. It's even good second time through.
Exactly. How about you, Bruce?
Cool. I watched the entirety of a documentary series on YouTube called Psych Odyssey. This is essentially the story of Psychonauts 2.
Interesting.
There's a production crew embedded with Double Fine, who is a game studio in San Francisco, I believe. And it starts from when it is an idea in Tim Schafer's head to it finally coming out almost 7 years later. This is quite possibly the best documentary that has ever existed.
Damn.
Because most documentaries, right, are I would put this on the level of stuff like is his name Tim Burns? Who's the Burns guy? Do you know what I'm talking about? Who does the
Bernie Burns?
No, hold on. What's his name? Ken Burns. I was like, I know I watched this thing. Ken Burns is an incredibly famous documentarian who has done stuff on like the Civil War, and I used to watch his stuff on PBS growing up, and his stuff is like super like holy crap, like what a documentarian, very cool. It tells all these individual stories. Psych Odyssey, in my opinion, is like on that level. Like anytime I hear about a game getting delayed, I will be like, yeah, I get it. Like thinking about like Metroid Prime 4, right? Where we got the announcement it was coming out and they came back 2 years later and we're like, we're moving studios. It didn't work out. I look at that now and I'm just like, yeah, I get it. Like making a game is fucking hard. Like it's hard as shit. And when little things change, or if there's one bad person embedded, or one leader who doesn't get it, or one person who doesn't jive with your culture or tries to do something, it could just mess the whole development cycle up. If, funding is a huge thing. Like Tim Schafer is like absent from like, I don't know, 2.5 years of like working on this game because he's just out there trying to like get money to keep making the game.
Wow.
It's crazy. I mean,
I loved both Psychonauts for what it's worth, so maybe I should check this out.
Yeah, well, and I played the second one a little bit and was kind of like, not feeling it. I like am desperate. If Side of the Erdtree wasn't coming out, I would be like playing this right now. I would be playing Psychonauts 2 because this like made me, I'm like, I really want to play it because I feel like I know so much more about like the game and all this stuff now. It's like a wonderful cast of characters, people that you're like rooting for, people that you root against, even though they're real people, and you think like, man, I don't, he shouldn't be in that position. He needs to be moved. He's not working out. Like they need to try something else.
That's really cool.
It's really, really cool and interesting, and incredibly well made. I think the only negative I can say about it is that COVID happens, and that means at the end of the documentary. So, this documentary starts, I think, in 2015, 2016. Psychonauts 2 does not come out until I think 2021 is spring. I think is when Psychonauts 2 comes out, maybe summer. And so there's like 30 episodes to get you to like late 2019, and then COVID happens, and then there's 3 episodes to get you through about a year and a half, and then it's over. And I think like that's kind of disappointing just from a like, I get it. It's much harder to make a documentary just from like not being in the office recording people. So that's kind of the one disappointing thing, but it isn't really anybody's fault. It's just COVID's fault. It happens. But yeah, this is like an incredible series. I know more about game development and Double Fine and what people's jobs are and what kind of, it's also just good. I think if you're a person who works in like an office setting, there's like lots of different management styles, lots of different meeting styles, lots of different like, oh, they're doing stuff like that. They're brainstorming like this. They're doing that. That's more of a creative angle, of course. But even I learned that like, hey, sometimes people with these really like tight structured ways of doing things, or people who come from larger studios moving to a little studio, like sometimes that doesn't work out. Sometimes that's not the right way for a smaller group to do things. So yeah, just super interesting. Took a lot away from this.
Yeah, and hey, Psychonauts 2 on Game Pass. Check it out. It's free.
Yeah, it's an incredible game, and I'm gonna go back and play it. So cool. I think that's it for this week. Anything else, Gautam? Or are we good to go?
Nah, we're good to go.
Let's get out of here. Hey, thank you again, everyone, for listening or watching. Don't forget to leave us feedback, comment, upvote, thumbs up, like, subscribe, all that. Check out Twitter, and let me read a list of all of our Patreon people. There it is. We have no Patreon. So, hey, if you would do us a solid, you can go there. You can start at $1. You can start at, I don't think you can start at 50 cents. I think $1 is the minimum. So go and give us a little bit of cash. We'll buy some new mics or something. Thanks for all of that. Thank you yet again for being with us this week. Adios.
Goodbye.
And don't forget to read more manga.